The studio lights of The View burned brighter than usual that morning, bleaching the set in warm whites and soft blues designed to feel welcoming, safe, controlled. The audience applauded on cue, a practiced rhythm that echoed off the walls like a heartbeat. Camera cranes glided silently above the stage, red tally lights blinking to life. Joy Behar sat upright in her chair, legs crossed, fingers resting lightly on her notes. She wore a confident smile, the kind she'd perfected over decades of television. It was the smile of someone who believed she owned the room. Across from her, Greg Gutfeld leaned back in his chair, arms relaxed, one ankle resting on his knee. He looked casual, almost amused, but anyone who knew him well could tell the difference between his usual irreverence and the stillness he carried now. His eyes weren't darting, he wasn't joking, he was waiting. "Let's welcome our guest," Whoopi Goldberg announced smoothly, gesturing toward him. "Greg Gutfeld is here to talk about media responsibility and political discourse." Polite applause followed, mixed with a few scattered cheers. Greg nodded once, lips curling into a half-smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Joy turned toward him immediately. "Well," she said lightly, tilting her head, "this should be interesting." The audience chuckled. Greg glanced at her, then at the camera. It usually is. For the first few minutes, the conversation stayed predictable, safe terrain. Media bias, polarization, sound bites that slid past each other without ever colliding. Joy spoke with practiced authority, criticizing hypocrisy in political commentary, condemning what she called double standards in conservative media. "And that's the problem," she said, voice firm. "People who preach morality but abandon it the moment it inconveniences them." Greg nodded slowly. "Interesting," he said, "because that's actually why I agreed to come here." Joy blinked once. "Just once." "Oh," she replied. "Do tell." Greg leaned forward now, elbows resting on the table. The casual posture was gone. The studio seemed quieter, not because the sound had changed, but because attention had. "You talk a lot about accountability," he said calmly. "About consistency. About calling out hypocrisy wherever it exists." Joy smiled. "As we all should." Greg tilted his head. "Even when it's close to home." A ripple moved through the audience, subtle, uncertain. Joy laughed softly. "I don't know what you're implying, Greg, but—" "I'm not implying," he interrupted gently. "I'm asking." Whoopi raised an eyebrow but didn't intervene. Greg continued, his tone steady, almost conversational. "You've criticized politicians for dismissing women's concerns. You've condemned dismissive language, personal attacks, and character smears." Joy nodded. "Yes, and yet," Greg said, "there are clips, many of them, where you've used those exact tactics against people you disagree with. Mocking appearances, questioning intelligence, reducing arguments to personal insults." The smile on Joy's face tightened, not vanished, but strained. "That's called humor," she said quickly. "Satire." Greg nodded again. "Funny how satire only works in one direction." A murmur passed through the crowd. Joy leaned forward now, mirroring him. "Greg, I think you're confusing comedy with cruelty, something your side does quite often." Greg didn't flinch. "Possibly," he said, "but then why is cruelty excusable when you do it?" The room shifted. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, lingering longer than usual on Joy's face. She scoffed. "Oh please, I've spent my career fighting for what?" Greg asked, not raising his voice. "For civility, or for the right people to be uncivil." A sharp intake of breath from somewhere in the audience. Whoopi finally interjected. "Okay, let's keep this respectful." "I am being respectful," Greg said, turning to her briefly. "I'm also being honest." He turned back to Joy. "You once said," he continued, "that anyone who refuses to listen to opposing views is part of the problem. That echo chambers are dangerous." Joy nodded slowly, eyes narrowed. "That's true. So why," Greg asked, "have guests with opposing views been shouted down on this show, including by you?" Silence. Not the awkward kind, the dangerous kind. Joy opened her mouth, then closed it. Her fingers tapped against her notes, just once, then stopped. "That's not fair," she said finally. "We challenge misinformation, and who decides what's misinformation?" Greg asked. "You." The audience shifted again. A few claps, quickly silenced. Joy's voice sharpened. "Greg, you come on my show and accuse me of hypocrisy." "Our show," Whoopi corrected quietly. Greg raised a hand. "And I'm not accusing, I'm demonstrating." He gestured toward the screen behind them. A producer hesitated. Greg looked straight into the camera. "Roll the clips." The studio froze. Joy turned sharply toward the screen. Wait. What clips? Too late. The screen lit up. And the room held its breath. Studia budto shalas. Pozil reklamnij pazi svet vernulsa rezke, holodny, kak v operationij. Kameri viceroylis po novomu, pojmav krupne plan lik, naprazeni, nastorazeni. V vozduhe vizelo to osobo molkani, kogda vis panamout. Sekas budit skazano nekto, sito nelza budit odmotat. Greg Gutfeld sidel, otkanusis v kresel. No ado bila ne raslablenist, skori, sobrana pruzina. Ego vizglad skolznil po zalu, po vidusum, po auditory, slovno on mysleno rastavlo accenti. On zadal, ne signala resisera, momenta, kogda slova udarat tokno, vernemsa, skazala vidusa, igolozi kut dronil. My obsuzdim odvetsvenist publikni figor za slova, kodari oni proiznosit, Greg podnil ruku, spokajno, bez titra, mazno, sprosel on magko, pakti vezlivo, razriseni prozvukulo formalno, kamera periklusilas na nego, ahoku nakad ne s obvinanij, skazel Greg, as citati, na ukraine positi vispinuli belly bukvi na cernum phone, korotka fraza, slova, skazani rani, vervani ne is contexta, akaradno pomaseni v nego, on dal im sekundu, pust zirateli proktit, ado vasi slova, prodolzal on, povernovsis k joy, v skazali ado, obsuzda lude, kodari s vami ne soglazni, ne argumenti, lude, v zail kato to kaslanil, joy ulibnulas, ta sama televiziona ulibka, privichna, zasidna, Greg, Nikala ona, v prokrasna neat, sito ado bila sutka, satira, v atum su mai, v atum su v casto nazivate ado satiraj, parabil on, ne poviza golosa, no est raznika mezdu sutkoj arlikam, mezdu humorum I degumanization, on estelo pazu, kameri pojmali liko joy, ulibka na sekundu dala trisanu, v goverito sakuvistvi, prodolzal Greg, oponymini, o tom, sito nelza obobsat, I tutzi obobsate, goverito dostoinstve, I tutzi ego animate, ado ne vopros politiki, ado vopros pozlato vitelnosti, vidusa popitalas vmesitsa, davite ne preversat ado v likno, ado ne likno, odvetel Greg, nikonik povernovsis k ne, ado publikno, kogda slova zavukid na visu stranu, oni peristot bike prosto slovami, on snova pismotrol na joy, v casto goverite, sito nanavist porsdit nanavist, s adim trudna sporit, no kato naknet razravat atot krug, esli ne te, u kogo est microphone, joy naklonilas vipert, v secas sitig ni lectuo morali, spursila ona s uzmeskoj, v, selivak, kodarij sudit, da, kivnil Greg, no a staros sudit nad idimi, a ne nad ludmi, I kogda a azabas, a ado prisnau, ada fraza prosvukalatize, gem prediduci, no ameno ona vizvala v zale, divizini, kato to zaplodiroval, kato to zaseptilsa, joy zamokala, na sekundu, na div, v hotite skazit, sito a lismerka, nikonix priscilla ona, Greg vizidonal, ne demonstrativno, po selivicheski, a hoku skazit, sito v, umnij selivak, I ameno poetamu od vas zadut bolsago, kogda v nazivate selu grupu lude opasnimi glupimi ili nadostoinimi, v delete rovno tu, protiv sego, kak v udversdi, borits. Ekran positi snova ozil, na atot raz korotkam montazam, neskolko fraz, neskolko intonasi, vervani ne is zilasti, a is ariva. Ne napadeni, zerkalo, joy posmotrela na ekran, podum, v zal, podum, na griga, ado manipulatia, skazala ona taiho, v vistravi narrative, luba discussia, narrative, otvetel on, vopros li v tom, sesne leon, v studi stalo po nastosamu taiho, des operatori devigilis ostorisni, v mozit ne soglasitsa so manoi, prodolzal Greg, mozit ne lubit moi sutki, moi vizgladi, no esli my govoramo dialogue, davite hoda by prisnim, gdon zakonsaveitsa I nasanitsa arlik, on zamokal, ne dila effecta, prosto patomu, sito vis, sito hotel skazit, bilo skazano, vidusa prokaslalas, joy, hotite vedit, joy otkrila rot, zakrila, ulibnulas, uz bez presne uverenesti, a shatau, skazala ona medleno, sito v strasne debata anagda parahodat granasi, vosmosno, v pravi v odnom, slova I